with Mat Flaum, and she and I have talked a lot about pocket scrapbooking. And May's not quite ready for the commitment of every week pocket scrapbooking, but she loves the look. Isn't that right, May?
It is. What I absolutely love about it is I can get a lot of photos and a good amount of journaling, but also have space to really embellish and have a lot of fun with my page too. So I'm excited to show you some of my absolute favorite little tricks and ways of doing pocket style scrapbooking on a traditional layout.
Good, I love tricks. So where do we start?
Yes, well, let's start. We're gonna want to make some actual little journaling or areas, or just, I like a little pattern paper. I like a little bit of color. So we can start by making these, and I can cut them out myself. I can use my scissors or my paper trimmer, or if you happen to have an electronic cutter, which
it just makes things a little bit faster.
It makes it a little faster, a little easier. So we're just gonna go in, just go in and pick out a pattern.
And how big do you want these to be?
These are 3.5 inches.
And for a 12 by 12 page, that's gonna be about right in order to fit them.
You know what, and you're gonna want 2 of those.
Okay.
And it really is ideal for the 12 by 12 page because it's gonna give me a little bit of space around each one.
And then I know you're also cutting a cute little library pocket out as well.
I have a little library pocket, and I really like this one a lot because it gives me a little way that I can put little tags, maybe journaling tags, maybe embellishments and that kind of stuff onto there as well.
Well, you know what I like so much is that, listen, we have 3 totally different shapes.
Yes.
But what we're able to do by cutting them out of the same paper, I mean, they're not 3 totally different, 2 the same, 1 different, is by cutting them out of the same paper, it unites it and it brings it across so that and because they're the same size, it creates that nice grid, just like pocket scrapbooking has.
Absolutely.
So I am just scanning in my paper so that I can see where it is and place these cuts right on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But I noticed that the cut that you have in front of you, that one has a little bit of, is that ink or paint?
It is, and I'll show you what I like to do a lot of times, especially when I'm working with such a pale pattern paper, is I like to take out my ink and just give it a little bit, and I've got some tape on here so that it wouldn't
secure
fly.
your lid.
I know, I've been flying, as you can tell. And I like to I just run the ink pad along the edge like so. And if I'm nice and neat with it, it will just give a little bit of pop when it's actually on the page.
You know what? I think of it like makeup. It's like when you add a line under your eyes, it adds that shadow.
And if you want a little more, if you just angle your ink pad slightly more, you can get kind of that grungy look. So it does kind of depend on, exactly how much do you really want, and if you really want to get a little more, or just that nice light little line.
Do you have any tips for inking inside the curve? That's one of the parts that I sometimes find difficult.
I do, and I will show you. What I do is I fold it, because as long as I'm gentle and I don't get a hard fold on there, we will be able to ink all of that very easily.
Cool. So let me just pull these off, and I have your library pocket and your 2 squares with their rounded edges. Easy enough.
Great.
What's next?
Well, next is the fun part, because once we have everything all cut out and ready to go, we can start assembling. And it's really easy to get my photos with just a paper trimmer, cut them out the exact size that we want, and then we can get to playing with decorating this. But before I get to that, if you would give me a hand here, I want to work on my title. So for my title here, I took some alphabet stamps that are real sketchy. I thought
you drew that or used a stencil or something because it has that fun look.
I am a really big fan of it, especially because the imperfections and the sketchy nature of this stamp. What I like to do is I take a permanent pen, and because I like the green ink, but it's not necessarily, if I want to cut it out, doesn't necessarily have that pop. So I just go ahead and take a pen, any pen that's permanent ink, that will work, and just add some sketchy lines around the edges. And once that is done,
I think this is the part where I get to help.
You get to help, because there's 2 ways we could do this. We could get some scissors out and cut this out, or we could let an electronic cutting machine take care of it for us while we play and embellish.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna stick it to the mat and load it on into the machine. And then all I'm gonna do is get my settings right on here so that I can cut that out for you.
Okay.
And while I'm doing this, I know that you're gonna talk to us a little bit about embellishment clusters because your beautiful page has 2 separate and awesome embellishment clusters.
So let's start with the pocket, and we already inked it up. The other thing that I did is I like to take a pen. You could add stitching. If you have a machine, you could add some machine stitching, but I just like to add little paper stitches, or excuse me, pen stitches around the edge of the paper. Sometimes I'm on the road, sometimes I don't have my sewing machine with me, or maybe I just don't want to go unbury it from the piles of other projects. And this is fun because it just adds, again, this is a pale pattern paper, so this just kind of adds a really fun little detail, another layer, because when we're talking about embellishing, it really is all about adding the layers. So for this, when I'm going to get ready to glue it onto the page, I would just glue the bottom and sides. But when I'm working—
Are you just gluing the bottom and the sides because we talked about this being a library pocket?
Yes.
So it's an actual
exactly.
pocket.
It is an actual pocket, as you can see on my finished page how—
Now I noticed that you're bending it a little. Does that help with the pocket nature?
You know
of anything?
what? It actually is just a little bit bent because of when we folded to ink it. So it will stick down nicely once we're done, and we will be able to tuck all kinds of little things in there. And I love to do this if I want hidden journaling. I can tuck it in there and pull it out. And so to embellish this, I've got 3 rules that I try to follow when I'm making an embellishment cluster, and that is that I want a variety of sizes, a variety of colors, and a variety of textures. And what that always does for me is it just kind of balances out all of those fun little bits and pieces of embellishing, and it seems random, I know, when I get to gluing and creating
Although, you know
here.
what, it doesn't seem that random, because if you think about it, like you said, a variety of colors, and while this is a variety of colors, but I also see a sort of similarity. We've got yellow, this kind of brown, the pale pink, even the bright pink, like it does kind of all, even though it's a variety of colors, it's not crazy.
Yes, it is, we're still gonna tie into things. I just always try to remind people, if we were all hot pink or all brown, it would just be kind of dull, it wouldn't pop.
It looks like a blob instead of individual bits.
And I have so much fun picking out all of the little individual bits that we're going to glue together.
I was going to say, you've got the cutest jar in the world full of adorable little bits and pieces, and what a great way to store things so you can actually see them.
It really is, and when I'm on the road, like here, you know, I love to just fill it up with treasures, and then it is fun. It's pretty to look at, but it's also very practical.
So right here, I have the title, which, speaking of color contrast, you can see what a contrast that nice green is going to pop. And if we take a look back at the finished layout, right, I think you can see how that green not only coordinates with the photos, but pops right off that cluster of sort of gold.
You know what? It really does. And again, the same embellishing principle where I've got a variety of colors, of textures, and sizes with my doily, with my stitching, and my metal butterfly and everything really helps bring it all together, but gives me the chance to have a lot of fun embellishing and playing as well.
This is great, and I love now that I have a lot of ideas for how to take all the cuteness of pocket scrapbooking, but make it a little more manageable so you don't have to do it every week.